Hello, and welcome to Be Yoga Fit NYC's podcast on eating mindfully. My name is Paul Sanchez, and I'm the founder, lead yoga teacher, personal trainer, and wellness counselor with Be Yoga Fit NYC. Today we are joined with us by health coach Samantha Elkrief of simplysamanthaNYC.com and one of our amazing staff members at Be Yoga Fit NYC. Samantha, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Paul. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. You know, I really respect and admire you and the work you do, so it's my honor to have you on the call.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're talking about a great topic, huh?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So before we begin, though, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a social worker and health coach. The name of my company is Simply Samantha NYC. And I work with people who are committed to changing their diet and lifestyle but might not know where to start, or might have a tendency to be a little hard on themselves, like I know we all tend to be. So what I do is I help people with small and sustainable changes that they can really integrate into their lives, and so that they can learn how to listen and trust themselves. We used to joke around in social work that our goal was always to make our clients not need us anymore, to take us out of a job. And I feel like it's the same thing with health coaching. The goal is really to empower the people I work with so they can make their own decisions and choices and feel really good about them.
Well, that's just beautiful, yeah, and that's, part of my admiration for you. I really love the work you do. So, okay, great. So we're on the call today to talk about eating mindfully. And I can speak from my experience, the power of, really connecting with your food and the nourishment that you give yourself and how that can propel you forward in your own development and also just the satisfaction of your life. So, but we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about both of us and our collective experience. So in that end, why don't you tell us a little bit more about, your experience in terms of eating mindfully and why is it beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. So before we begin, I do just want to say eating mindfully is a practice. It's not something that one day you wake up and you've accomplished, right? It's something that sometimes you'll be good at, sometimes you won't be, sometimes you'll do better at, and sometimes, you'll forget about it completely. So, I'm definitely not perfect. Just before this call, I was eating some cashews, talking to Paul on the phone, and it's something that you practice, and that's the beauty of it. So I just want to put that out there before we begin. That it's not like a measure.
Yeah, it is nice to give ourselves some breathing room with these challenges we present for ourselves. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. So back to your question. So I think that there are so many benefits from eating mindfully, and they're both physical but also mental, and those two are really so tied together because stress affects the way that we digest our food. I think it's so relevant. So the first thing I want to talk about is where digestion begins, because a lot of people think digestion is just, their stomach, their intestines, going to the bathroom, and yeah, that's all a part of it, but digestion actually begins with your senses. So digestion begins with your eyes, with your sense of smell, right? Like if I tell you to imagine your favorite meal, right, you can see it in your mind, you might start to drool, right? There's nothing in front of you.
Yeah, this happened actually.
So when you think about food, right, you start to salivate, and salivating doesn't just mean you're excited about what you're about to eat. It means that your body is getting ready for digestion. Your saliva contains enzymes in it that help break down the food. So if you're eating, while you're at work and you're not really paying attention, you're not salivating, right? You're not salivating, crunching numbers or working on your website or any of that stuff. You really have to take the time to smell your food, take in your food, see your food, and that's what produces those enzymes. So right from the start, if you're taking the time to really be with your food, it will improve your digestion.
Brilliant. Yeah, I tell my clients all the time, digestion begins in the mouth, but you took it another step further actually, and it really is about connecting with the food and being present with it to maximize its benefit for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, one of the other things with being mindful while you're eating is that you're in tune with your body when you're doing that, right? So I know a lot of us, will eat while we're doing work or watching TV or, I'm guilty of this sometimes. I eat on the subway on my way to or from work because I don't have time, right? So I'm like, oh, well, it's better to eat than, not to eat at all. But, when you're just eating without paying attention. What's that?
I was going to say hashtag New York City life.
Yeah. Hey, I'm New York City problems.
Yeah, seriously.
But when you're eating like that, right? You're not listening to your body. You don't know when you're full, and when you don't know when you're full, you keep eating. Then you're again not digesting your food as well. But it also can cause weight gain, right? So if you're looking to lose weight or maintain a weight, being mindful when you're eating can help with that by helping you be in tune with when you're full.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because I teach a lot of yoga. It's, the main source of my business, and that's the main component of what I teach is awareness. It really starts with the breath, but it's just being aware of your breath. Most people aren't even aware that they're breathing really shallow, and as they begin to practice yoga, they notice, wow, there's so much more breath available to me. And that's, I think, the same in terms of, connecting with our food and ourselves and our bodies. There's so much more than we often allow ourselves to receive.
Yeah, and that's actually exactly the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is, meditation is not just like sitting quietly for, however long on a, nice cloth and a cross-legged position, right? That's not the only opportunity for meditation, right? We have that opportunity in everything we do. So meditation can be being with your food and eating mindfully, right? Just like, we always have access to breath, we always have access to a meditative state. It's just about refocusing, so eating mindfully is just another way to bring you back to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, just, it all comes back to full circle, right? Everything is connected, all is one, and awareness is power. And that's one of the main benefits that we get from yoga, or in this case, eating mindfully and consciously, just being aware.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the thing, like that awareness and just being in the present moment, that's like all we can ask for ever. You know what I mean? For some people, yoga brings them there. For some people, mindful eating brings them there. For some people, dancing brings them there, right? There's just all these ways to practice that being in the moment, cultivating awareness, and so it just gives us another opportunity.
Yeah, actually, about the dancing, I couldn't agree more. That's actually my favorite kind of quote-unquote yoga. It's like my meditative state, when I'm dancing and I really find my zone and I'm present to my body, the music, the movement, I'm just fully in the now. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Well, that's great. So, all right, so that's great. So we have the benefits. We understand the value here. Now, could you maybe guide us through a little more practical steps that we could take to eat more mindfully and consciously?
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on one of them earlier, which is really connecting with your breath. It's one of the things I tell all my clients, right? When you wake up, take a few deep breaths, right? When you're turning on your computer, before you check your emails, take a few deep breaths, right? At every opportunity, you can take a few deep breaths, and that really just brings you back to the moment. And food is no exception. So my first tip for eating mindfully would be, as you are about to eat, just look at your food, take it in, and take a few deep breaths. And then, you can go a step further and take a bite, put your fork down, take another deep breath. Really savor what you're chewing, And at every opportunity while you're eating, you can take a deep breath, even while washing the dishes, right? Like, it's all part of the process. So you can just use it as another reminder to breathe, to deepen your breath, to be aware.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the dishes. I used to take a lot of Kung Fu classes. I missed them. I plan on doing them again at some point. But I remembered forever, because it really stuck with me, the Sifu, the master who used to teach would be very clear, what is Kung Fu? What does that mean? And it literally translates to skill. So anything can be Kung Fu. It's not just, waving your arms around for martial arts. It's being present to what it is you're doing in such a way that you become skillful at it. You become a master of whatever that activity is. And I started to look at my life in that way, and I used to start to wash the dishes much more, mindfully, just to focus on my breathing, be present to the water under my hands and the feel of the plate and the weight of it. And it made washing the dishes a lot more fun, actually, I have to admit.
Sure.
I think there's, the breath and that being present is just so valuable that there probably aren't even words really to accurately describe it.
I agree 100%. And it's something that I'm always working on too, I mean, as I'm sitting here in this conversation, I'm reminding myself, take deep breaths, take a breath, right? Like it's just something that we can always do, and it's easy. Like it doesn't require any tools or anything, right? We have everything we need right here. We can just start doing it. Every time we remember, like, oh, am I breathing? Oh, I'm not breathing. Okay, I can take a breath. You can be on the subway. You don't look like a crazy person if you're breathing. You can be at work, right? It's just like we have access to it all the time,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, that's beautiful. That's it. Just continue, please.
So one of the other things that I find really helpful for mindful eating is to remember to chew your food. I know that sounds crazy because we all chew our food, right, to some extent. But I like to recommend this exercise for people. So just like go, whatever your next meal is, take a bite and just count how many times you chew before you swallow. For most of us, it's like 2 or 3 times. It's nothing. And then, I like to recommend try chewing each bite 10 times. See how that goes. Try 15, try 20. Some people recommend chewing each bite like 50 times, right? Mm-hmm. And it's great for you on so many levels. So, I have IBS, and a lot of people I work with have digestive issues. So if you have digestive issues, chewing your food is super important because, again, you're starting the process sooner, right? Like when you're chewing, you're breaking down the food. The nutrients are more available to you. You're mixing it with your saliva, which has the enzymes in it, so it's breaking down more effectively. So chewing your food is just great in general, but it also then keeps you in the present moment, keeps you focused. It's like a mantra, right? So instead of Om, you've got chewing your food, right? Moving your mouth in that way. So when you chew, you're present, right? You're there. You're focused on the food, what you're eating, what you're putting into your body. You're in tune with what your body needs. If your body is full, so it's a wonderful practice and really cultivates mindful eating.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I've always been, I was born and raised in New York, so I'm kind of, type A, just always running around doing stuff. And yoga has helped a lot on that front. And I think that's why a lot of New Yorkers are starting to come to yoga, because we need that sense of balance. But for so long, I didn't chew my food. And, there was even times when I would, almost choke on my food because I was just chewing it so fast because I was so hungry and I was so busy and I just had so much to do. It's just like not really prioritizing the experience of eating, I guess. But these days, I certainly feel the difference. And I'm, like you mentioned, I'm not perfect by any means. I still sometimes, occasionally, I really try not to, will watch something, a video or TV, very rarely, but while I'm eating. But when I don't do that, and when I take the time to really, what's the word? I want to say, just take time. It's hard to sometimes shift gears from the constant go, 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 right? You constantly think, I have this next to do, I have this next to do, I have this next to do. But if one and myself can set the time aside to really appreciate your food. So, for example, right, I'm really conscious of scheduling. So I'm really allocating all the minutes of my day on a really full day. And sometimes, if the day's really busy, I'll only take 10 minutes to eat, which isn't a lot, especially if you consider chewing your food slowly, right? When you chew your food slowly, it takes longer to eat. And so that will actually change the time that I'm sitting down to eat from 10 minutes to 30 minutes, sometimes even, you know. But I have to admit, when I give myself a full 30 minutes, I feel so much better about it. I feel more satisfied. I just feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, a lot of the time when we're eating, it's a break in our day, but we don't actually give ourselves that break because we're doing something else while we're eating. So just taking the time to breathe, to chew, right? Then you're actually respecting that break time and letting yourself be nourished and rejuvenated, both from the food you're eating, but also from the experience you're giving yourself.
Well said.
Well, so let me give you my last tip here. So my last one is kind of my favorite one, and it's gratitude. So, you know, we're talking about mindful eating, but really all these things can be just applied to mindfulness in general, and we're just applying it to food and to eating. So with gratitude, I like to look at the food that I'm eating and take it back as far as I can, right? So to feel gratitude for whoever put the food together, whoever cooked it. Usually that's me. So I give myself some gratitude. But then, you know, so who cooked it? But then who bought the groceries, right? And then who shelved the groceries? Who delivered the groceries? Who grew the vegetables? And where did the vegetables come from? Gratitude for the ground that the vegetables grew from, right? The water that, you know, fell when it rained, the water that was, you know, through irrigation systems, whatever it is, right? But like every meal that we eat has so much that it came from. There were so many people involved to produce that meal. And we don't think about that, right? We're like, oh, food, okay, right? Like it's just, it appears, it's done. But really there was so much work. And I mean, you know, for a vegetable to grow, it takes months and months and months. So it's not just like, you know, we ordered it and it was there, right? That's like, that vegetable had a life too. And, you know, I don't eat meat, so this applies for animal products too. But, you know, for vegetables, I mean, it's months. For animals, it's years, right? That, you know, this food or animal was nourished, was taken care of just so we could have one meal. So there's really just so much that goes into our food, and just really taking a moment to appreciate that and appreciate all the people that played a part in that, and nature and everything that played a part in it. It just like will take you to a whole nother level with your food.
That was deep. Yeah, I'd never even thought about some of that, you know, like all the steps in every part of the process, especially for me. You know, sometimes I get a little upset that I'm constantly having to cook for myself because I don't eat out a lot. And instead, I could just be grateful to myself for having bought the groceries, made the food, etc. That's beautiful. And I have to admit, you know, in my own experience, gratitude is one of the most powerful spiritual practices that I've come across. It's changed my life potentially more than any other practice, except for the breathing. But I'll tell you, the more grateful I am, the better I breathe, for sure. So that being said, I'd like to end our call today with just a brief meditation and in a sense to deepen that gratitude and the feelings of appreciation in a practical way. So, you know, people can listen to this while they're eating if they'd like to. It's just going to be about 60 seconds or so. But, you know, just get the feel for connecting with your food in this way. And I think, you know, hopefully people will get some value from it. So you ready?
I'm excited. I'm going to do it.
Okay, let's do it. All right, so sitting in a comfortable position, sitting well and tall, and begin to close your eyes. And start to slow your breathing down. Allowing for your deepest and longest exhale and your deepest and longest inhale, longer than maybe you've ever had in your life. Now I want you to, in your mind's eye, imagine or visualize your favorite meal. start to begin your digestive process by smelling it, seeing it, maybe even salivating. And start to be grateful to know that you're about to receive this deliciousness into your body. Let that sense of gratitude grow as you focus upon it. And then in your mind's eye, take a utensil and put some of that food in your mouth. And become aware of the sensation the food creates on your tongue, between your teeth, in your cheeks. And really breathe this in. Take a nice full breath and allow that deliciousness to permeate your body. See if you can follow your food as you chew, where it moves, the sensation it creates. And chew for as long as you like, or if you're ready to swallow, or when you do, follow the pathway of that food. Follow it down through your esophagus, into your stomach. And feel the sense of fullness that it begins to create. Take another deep breath and feel the sense of gratitude. Feel the sense of gratitude for your stomach and your digestive organs for accepting this nutrition into your body. And see if you can even feel the nourishment of this food flow down through your legs into the tips of your toes. Generate this vibration of gratitude in your entire being, from head to toe. And simply allow each breath to take you deeper. I think that's all the time that we have for today. But Samantha, I want to thank you again for joining us on the call and for sharing your beautiful wisdom with us and the world.
Thanks so much for having me, Paul. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Well, stay tuned for more podcasts from Be Yoga Fit NYC and perhaps simply Samantha NYC. I don't know what her plans are, but I certainly think we can all agree she's an excellent speaker. So I think we'd all like to.